Helen! Helen! I'm afraid! And I'm glad I'm afraid. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Peeping Tom from 1960, directed by Michael Powell, who had quite the career going. He was going higher and higher and higher with films like The Tales of Hoffman, The Red Shoes, I Know Where I'm Going. He was revered by audiences and critics alike, and people wondered what his next project was going to be. And then in 1960, he decided, I'm going to put a different spin on the horror genre by creating the slasher subgenre, which implies the existence of the slasher dom genre. Who would want to be dominated by somebody that was a slasher? Enough about my kinks. Let's move on from that. Who wouldn't want to be pinned? Okay, let's move on. Peeping Tom basically was so controversial that the backlash was just wielded like Thor's hammer, smashed over the heads of the people that funded Peeping Tom. And yeah, Michael Powell's career was pretty much toast. The backlash, it was insane. It was pulled from British cinemas within 5 days. And yeah, even though the film is now considered a cult classic and is the starter for the slasher subgenre, to the point that any slasher that came out after this, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, any others, any of the low-rent stuff, any of the films that succeeded, launched careers, sank careers, in the case of some of the ones that were really fucking bad. The whole point is, the slasher subgenre would not exist without Peeping Tom. So credit to Michael Powell, may he rest in peace. It's just a shame that this film was not seen as the classic that it is now, back in 1960. This was written by Leo Marks, who did Sebastian and Carve Her Name with Pride, and features Karl-Heinz Baum as Mark, who basically takes pictures of women, scantily clad women. It's a little bit of stuff for the nudie mags and everything, and the smut, as it were. Smut. Yes. Oh, see her. I'm not going to say that word because I don't really feel comfortable saying that as far as how British people describe underwear. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah, Mark is a little bit absolutely unhinged from the very beginning. What he basically does, this is for people, by the way, that have not seen Peeping Tom. He does bad things to women. That's about all I can say right there. And, Mark, basically, he wants to capture the moments just before death and at death of the absolute fear, knowing that these people are going to die. He films them with, a film camera. Obviously, this is 1960. It's not a digital camera or even something that you could use just a little, cassette recorder. Nope, this is film. And he goes around and he films everything. He's filming for a documentary, he says. Also, he's killing women, and there is a pointy knife at the end of one of the stand sticks of this camera. But then he meets a woman named Helen Anna Massey, who is in Frenzy and some other stuff, and she basically kind of almost gets in the turn, but he just can't get away from the voyeuristic stuff and the willingness to see fear and fear play out to the very bitter, bloody end. So, realistically, if you take a look at this, there's very little blood, and maybe that could be down to the print that you get of this film, but it was for like about $5 on Amazon. I decided to rent it, and I have seen it before, but it's been 20 years. Now, I will say, in comparison to Hitchcock's Psycho, I like Psycho more. Psycho also, I think, had a bigger budget. Not that this had a small budget. It actually was very well filmed and very well shot and very color and picturesque. And man, there were some beautiful British women in this. But the thing about this is, this was the creator of the template for the slasher genre. And it was just so creative and just so well done and so well filmed. Karl-Heinz Baum is just incredible in this. Unhinged, unsettling, just burningly disturbed. People would say like this and Eyes Without a Face are like, one and the same as far as the controversy they created. Eyes Without a Face was more technically impressive with the body horror effects and everything. And you might argue that that was a bit of a better movie, but Peeping Tom is right up there with some of the best horror films of all time. You also have Vivian, Mariah Shearer, and you have, you have Helen, who plays the doe-eyed innocent woman that actually is kind of idiotic in not being able to tell that Mark is clearly off his tits, as they say across the pond. And Mrs. Stebbins is Maxine Audley, and you have Brenda Bruce as Dora. You have a lot of really good stuff, and the recipe for success here. It's just a shame that it was so severe and that audiences rebelled against it. Now, I would imagine there are people that enjoyed this, and it probably made some money in its 5 days at the box office, but man, it's just a shame. It sunk Powell's career and lay dormant for so long before gaining a second life years after the deaths of Powell and many others. And, basically we have in the home movies that we see a little bit later on of, Mark talking about what his dad did. Professor A.N. Lewis was actually played by, Michael Powell, and his son was, the little kid in that, and the one that played the mother was the actual mother. And the son, Powell's son, even laughed at the fact that he was allegedly exploited in this one. No, it was really cool, and that's some controversial shit. Like, a lot of it is really just, it's not even the blood, it's just the implication of stuff, because you don't see actually any, until the very end, you don't really see any blood, and you don't even see that much. But this is how you make a fucking horror flick. He gets a blonde that I thought at first was Joan Crawford, but her eyes are too close together to be Joan Crawford. She ends up taking him up to her room, and then he ends up busting out the camera and stabs her and everything, capturing the moments just before her death. And yeah, there's just some insane stuff here. There's just Mark out there filming everything, and nobody bothers to really do anything about saying, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing that. There's this very old British business guy that's into smut. But it's put in an educational book bag, so the wife can't know. And the bookshop guy says, well, he won't be doing the crossword tonight, because he's going to be fapping. You're welcome for imagining a 60-year-old British man in 1960 fapping. He couldn't be doing that now because he'd be too old and probably dead. But as he goes up to the loft area of this book magazine shop thing, there's some smut filming that he does. This is a much better way of doing the smut stuff instead of the Sinister Urge, I believe, was the Ed Wood movie. But one line, come on, Sonny, make me famous. No, don't worry, he makes some women famous because he's trying to cobble together a film and do all this and make this stuff, but just basically keep his kink going, the voyeurism and the all that. So there is one woman that is young and everything and is going to be filmed, but she keeps staying to the sides because she's got a weird mark on her face. I do say the actress played Lorraine. That's her. Actually very cute. But don't be shy. It's my first time too, and he's filming her, with the weird mark on her face because he's fascinated by weirdness, for he himself is unhinged and weird. And Helen basically invites him to her party, but that doesn't work. It's her birthday party, her 21st birthday party, when I think Carl had to have been 30 at this point. But yeah, it turns out that his dad owned this place. The rent's reasonable, though, and Mark's basically just trying to keep this place going because he wants to do good stuff. He wants to do good stuff despite the fact that he's killing women with a knife at the end of his camera. But then we see the footage of, Powell's kid and all that and everything. And actually, it's pretty creepy stuff. And also, it turns out that there's a lot of other weird stuff that was filmed and recorded. Helen's kind of into it at first and then realizes that Mark's a little bit off, but just can't stay away from this weirdo. Mark's first date goes about as well as mine do. Less stabbing on camera, at least, I'll say that much. So, the dad tried to capture, to study the nervous system and capture the element of fear. Maybe not the scent of fear, but just the wide-eyed shit, I'm actually fucked feeling of fear. How Mark is able to get away with any of this is a mystery to me. I can only ascertain that the characters are just slightly dumber than he is. There's this one actress, Liv, very pretty redhead, who is on set with Mark. I guess it's for some kind of date. There's a neat little thing for the walls are closing in because Mark's starting to become more unhinged. He's going to make a mistake. And he says, oh, you want to feel less relaxed. Imagine somebody is coming to kill you with something like this, and it's the knife it's a pointy stick at the end of the camera, and coming at her. And then he eventually ends up killing her. I just like just the way they make it where these women feel helpless. I mean, and they probably could have gotten away at any point, and they realize, shit, I trust this guy too much. And again, Karl Heinz is just great. And Helen's mother basically says, I don't trust a man who walks quietly. I guess he needs to walk with heavy feet like he's got cement shoes. So he gives Helen a gift. It's a brooch, likely from one of the victims. Just saying that. And, well, she's got a book idea. Because she saw how he filmed stuff and everything. A magic camera that, the photography and everything. It captures the images and everything and all that for all time. And she wants him to work on it, capture some of this photography, but meanwhile, he is doing the smut stuff, the television or the movie set stuff, and also he's killing women with the goddamn knife at the end of the camera. And then the police are investigating after they find Liv's body. And this one cop is goofing off and says, thought he heard something, thought he saw somebody up in the ceiling, I thought I saw a putty tat. Oh boy, great, we're quoting Tweety Bird. And the fact that Tweety Bird was at least, I think, 15 years old as a character at this point just says a lot about, where this film's head was at. So he goes with Helen. He leaves the camera in what is his mother's room, this kind of stuff. He just wants to maybe get away from that, but he just can't resist. Also, his mother turns out to be on the, turns up in Mark's room, Mark's area. And it turns out her mother's actually blind. So, okay, that's a bit of a twist. And she has good senses, and his previous film ran out and the lighting has screwed it up, so now he's got to create a new film. Is he going to kill the mother? He doesn't end up killing the mother. He could have killed the mother, but then he's like, that would have hurt Helen. So she says, I don't want you seeing Helen, because I can tell that you're not right. And she's touching his face, doing this stuff. And then we basically get the explanation here at the end. It's scotophilia, voyeurism. Can it be cured? Yes, through therapy and other stuff to realize it's wrong. And his father had it. And hence his father's films and stuff like that. And stuff will get, mentioned a little bit later on. So he basically decides he's going to film one more time. He's going to film one more victim, Millie. The blonde from the beginning. He does end up killing her. She's a very pretty woman. And then a cop is watching on, but not keeping a very good eye on him because he's in this loft apartment. Or his loft area. He closes the business, the bookshop from before. And then Helen goes to give him a gift, ends up seeing his room, fires up one of the films, and sees, oh, it's not so bad, and oh shit, he's killing people. And he says, as long as I don't see you frightened, then I won't do anything to you. That's reassuring. No, it's not. And he's like, don't let me see you frightened, all this stuff. And yeah, Millie is they find Millie. She is dead. They're going to go find Mark. And Mark basically decides the only way to do this, because he can't kill Helen. He just can't do it. He sets up the camera with the pointy stick and is going to run out just as the sirens are going. The sirens sound like they're freaking like from the 18th century, but Britain. And he runs at it and grabs the thing and says, Helen, Helen, I'm afraid. And I'm glad I'm afraid. To capture the ultimate, feeling of fear. His work is complete. He basically takes his own life. And there we are. Helen is fine. I assume the mother's fine. She's not seen again, but she can't see at all. Ha ha! And then basically, the character, that's not to make fun of blind people, not that you can see what motions I'm making anyway. That's mean. I'm sorry. But essentially, this is just, the creation of the slasher subgenre, and it is so brilliantly done, you can't help but just stand up and cheer, enjoy it. Peeping Tom still holds up 65 years later. It will hold up 100 years from now. I very much doubt I will be alive in 2060, but if it is and I'm still somehow filming shit and I'm not a drooling vegetable, then maybe I'll film a 100-year review. No, I won't. I won't be doing that. The world won't be around in 40 or so years. But that being said, yeah, the film's fucking great. It's a great bunch of pretty British women. Karl Heinz being just tremendous as Mark. And it's an hour and 40 minutes. And it's just very unsettling. It makes you never want to go near anybody with a camera again. I say as I'm filming myself here. Moments before death. No, I'm kidding. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Redland. Until we peep on the world again. Don't do that, it's illegal. Happy trails to you.